Hello, everyone. Here we are.
Here we are.
Last episode of Bachelorette finale. 3 hours of a finale. So,
Mm.
a lot of that was commercials, but lots of things happened. So, let's get to it.
Let's.
Okay, so we started off, it was still like the final dates with everyone. So, final date with Peter, which from the last episode, very challenging. Talking through their differences in proposing, not proposing. Do you propose once? Is it just a proposal that's telling you're moving forward with someone? And so Rachel and Peter are really struggling to find common ground. Go to the fantasy suite though at the end of the episode, so and had more time together, so it seemed like, all right, maybe. But then she was still really distracted that next date, right, with Brian, about all of her and Peter. So how are you feeling at the beginning of this episode? Like, you felt like you knew it was going to happen?
Well, I knew, or I felt like I knew that she was going to end up with Peter for a number of reasons. One, I sort of felt like that ABC is going to do the whole bait and switch on us. Like, it can't be so obvious. Like, it just can't be. And I guess that plays into my whole sense of, as you know, suspicion and skepticism about about most things, where I'm like, it can't really be this. And I was like, there's just no way. And interestingly enough, I think Peter, and I've done a little, it seems like popular opinion is that Peter was the front runner. Everyone wanted it to be Peter. And I just sort of thought, and it's not that I didn't want it to be Peter. I knew it wasn't going to be Eric. It's not that I didn't want it to be Peter or I wanted it to be Brian. It was more about, she was very clear about what she wanted, what her goals were about this show. And Peter said from the beginning, and I'm of two minds, I think, I think a lot of people may be, but I'm of two minds. And that is, Peter, obviously, they all were great guys, actually. The last three contestants, all super guys. They really were. As much as I'm like, yeah, I'd like to be in that position, choosing between three. No, I would not. Because I could see how, you saw her turmoil about it, right? And she probably could see a future with any of them if she had more time. She could have seen a future with Eric, who is awesome. And did he get finer as the season went on, or what?
That beard was doing a lot of things for him. He was always cute. He had the facial hair. I was like, come through, Eric. Okay, yes.
Yes. So I was just sort of feeling like I was waiting for ABC to kind of, keep going down this path. And I still didn't know what was happening as they were kind of talking through it, breaking up. And I was like, are they trying to do the Jedi mind trick? Aren't they kind of saying the same thing? Like, he also was very protective of himself. Like, you could see that. And I could understand how you would be. But you can't go on a show like that knowing full well expectation is you're all out there. And that's, I don't know, you can make whatever judgment you want about that. I think he just knew going in, I got to hold some of myself back. And I just think it's somewhat disingenuous to go on the show knowing that you're like, because he could have also excused himself when he knew, because he knew going in, I'm not the person to do this, but he's falling for her. So why not excuse himself from that whole process? Do you know what I mean?
Because he's falling for her. Well, and I think the thing is,
she was very clear about what she wanted. So I'm just like, they both were like super clear about so how did he get to be like one of the last guys standing? She's hoping he's going to change his mind. She's hoping, and he's hoping she's going to change her mind. That sounds like very typical, like, I am not seeing a relationship for what it is. It's what I want it to be. right?
I mean, yeah, I think that there's a way that, clearly he was really into her and they had a really great connection, you know? And I still think that in part it just was that they were looking to go to the same place. It's just the pace at which they were trying to get there was different.
Sounds very common in relationships, right?
Yeah, I think it is. I definitely think it is, you know, that that you could have the same, you know, goal in mind, obviously have very strong feelings with someone, love someone, you know, but be like, well, this is the thing that I want. Well, I want that too, but I don't see it the same way that you see it, you know. I think, yeah, that is sort of the crux of, you know, that, and navigating all of that can be tough. So, well, let's hold on for a second, because let's, you know, get back. So before we get all into Peter, because Eric did not make it to the final two.
No, he did not.
And I too knew, I was like, he's not going to be at the end there.
No.
He's going to make somebody, some woman, very, very happy.
Yes, girl, yes. I was like, if I were... Yeah.
He teaches really well. He was like, you know, I'm so thankful for this journey, and I never would have gotten there if this hadn't happened. You know, talks about being open. One of the recaps Julie and I did together, you know, we're like, he really did, like, this process did a lot for him.
It did. It
so,
did.
That's
and
awesome.
it was beautiful to see. It really was. And he just, even at the finale sort of, I guess, meet and greet, whatever, in studio, he was just, and everything he said about, you know, going into it as a boy, now being a man. It was so funny because I was live tweeting during the show, and some of the comments were like, they totally had sex in the fantasy suite. And I'm like, listen, not for nothing. That's their business if they did. But, like, don't you have to test drive those, you know, test drive the cars before you buy it? Like, what if you pick somebody? Like, that's all. That fantasy suite is a whole nother discussion. But I just really, and I think everybody did. Everybody is like, Eric is the next Bachelor. He's handsome. He's mature.
You think he's gonna be the next Bachelor?
No, there's no way they'll have two black people back to back.
I was gonna say, I was like, I don't think that's gonna happen at all.
I doubt it, but who knows? I mean, look at what, I don't know. I don't think so, but like they could just keep on this momentum. I mean, I don't know if they're losing thousands of fans and gaining some on the other end. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I know people, I read some things that people were saying that Peter will be the next Bachelor. I would be, I mean, maybe he will. You know, I also, for the reasons that we were just talking about him sort of being more maybe analytical person, or, you know, and she even said,
right,
in the studio, like, maybe this is not the thing that's for you, right? So I would be a little surprised at that. Which I guess I just gave away the other thing, which is that, right? Well, we already sort of gave it away. Peter also gets eliminated, right? So Peter was not given the final rose.
I would love to see. Listen, Eric and Peter are going to do fine. I mean, you could just see they're really, really good guys. And that Eric, again, he came away to me as the star of the season finale. He just did. Because I was not really pulling for him in the beginning. My guy in the beginning was like Josiah until he started acting a little like nutty. And then I was like, right, there's something about Eric. I was like, he just seemed so immature. And you could just see his progression. I mean, he was always a very good looking guy, clearly. But wow, what a great guy. He will not be single long, if he's even single now. So,
right, exactly. I agree.
Great guy, awesome guy, good for him. And Peter, I do want to talk about Peter for a second.
Yes, let's talk about Peter.
He was also quite a beautiful man, I must say.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
He's very dashing, and he looks
also hair on him real good.
Yeah,
Anyway,
he looked so dashing in that suit, and you could see how emotional he was. But up until the very end of him walking off that stage and hugging her, I literally thought that somehow they were going to end up together. Not because I had a stronger connection with him. A lot of people on Twitter were like, oh, Peter was the guy. She picked the ring over the guy. That blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't necessarily feel that way. Also, I wasn't there, so it's hard to make those kind of judgments. But I do think, like I said, he held a bit of himself back in this process. And that's neither right nor wrong, but it does seem somewhat disingenuous. And the thing disingenuous about the purpose of the show, right? You can't force yourself to be someplace that you're not. So it's good that it's good that he had the wherewithal to know, like, I could get here with this woman, but I'm not there yet. I will say that since Peter was the front runner and people were really rooting for him and they feel a way about her choosing Brian, I just thought, why would she choose? To me, it just sort of felt like this age-old thing that, like, women will often do. Chasing the guy who's a little mysterious. The guy who doesn't really put his feelings out there. The guy who doesn't put himself out there and stake his claim. God knows I've done that.
Peter?
Yeah. I mean, if you're comparing a guy like Brian, who people are a little put off, I think, by his charm. I'm not put off by it. I've also dated a Colombian guy who was very affectionate, expressive, very, like, all of those things. And maybe not to the degree that Brian was, and we were nowhere near close being engaged or married. But I just thought, what's wrong with putting your feelings out there? And people feel things differently. And why is it that the guy who's a little bit more reticent, who provides a little bit more, I guess, mystery and chase, is the one everyone's rooting for versus the guy who's like, I'm in this to win it. I want you. Staked his claim from the beginning. So I think it's possible for people to feel like that, actually. I never have. But I just am like, what's up with her just taking it at face value that the person who's into her is really into her, and the one who's reticent about, why waste more time to see if he's going to get there when the other guy's already there?
I think the thing is, right, like, how genuine is it? Because I agree with you, that you can definitely feel a lot, early for someone. I've had, that experience. I guess the thing is, even in acknowledging how fast it is, to me, would be, that would feel more genuine to me. And it felt like Brian was coming with the lines, and not necessarily the, like, I'm feeling this thing and wow, like, this is amazing, but it was like, would you complete me? Like, it felt like it was that kind of language that I think made people, and made me too, feel like suspicious, made her family, feel suspicious of him. But I think you're right. I think there's definitely a way that, like, the mystery man and the man who feels like he doesn't want you, that women can often sort of going after that guy rather than being like, okay, if he's not coming with it, there's a reason. Felt with Peter, though. I didn't feel like he wasn't feeling those things, or was, all the build up to those things. I just think he felt like, yeah, wow, this is faster than what I feel comfortable with marriage. And, I guess I didn't feel like it was disingenuous to go. I mean, like, how he ended up being on The Bachelor. Like, did he put himself up? Did other people put himself up? Like, Peter, you should do this. And maybe it was a thing where it was sort of more of a whim, And then he got there and was like, oh, actually, I really like this woman. All these things. But, I'm not doing it at the pace that these other guys are. And I think in the real world, and I feel like even Rachel said this when, when they were sitting on the couch, in the real world, it could have been different. Still not, like, I know she said that she had some other reservations, that the focus, kind of ended up being about him proposing or not. But she said that there were some other things that she wondered, whether he really wanted the thing that she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think that's fair. Like, she, you know, obviously she has information we don't have, you know. But I'm still like, when Brian ended up being the last man standing, and honestly, not even just that, when Peter and Rachel were talking on that couch, I was like, she's still having a lot of feelings in a way that she was not with Eric, right? And she said that, you know, she had more feelings for Peter and Brian, but there's really a part of me that's like, no, I just refuse to believe, like, I'm not sure this thing with Brian is gonna work out. And then I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, and then her and Peter can still be together.
That's so funny. You were rooting for him.
But I absolutely have been rooting for him. He felt the most, I think, you know, ready for marriage, but genuine and taking his time, which I think is like what you would do in the real world. You would not have gone on 2 real dates with someone and then been like,
this is not the real world. That is not what you signed up for.
I understand. No, so I understand what you're saying and what she said about him not going on this show.
Right.
But I also think, well, that's why I'm saying I wonder how he ended up going on it, you know, because I could see you being like, yeah, sure, you know, shits and giggles, let's go on The Bachelor, you know, The Bachelorette, right? And then recognizing like, oh wow, wait, I'm actually feeling a lot of things I didn't know that I was gonna feel
for this person.
Yeah.
And the intensity in which I'm sure you feel it. Do you feel like she attacked him on the couch? There was someone I was tweeting with, or we were tweeting back and forth, and she said, you know, she attacked Peter and I don't like it. I was like, I didn't feel like he was attacked at all. And maybe I'm not, I was like, I need to go back and rewatch that. But did you feel that?
Well, you know, I didn't feel like necessarily attacked, but I did understand. So when I was saying about her still being angry, so, you know, when he said that thing about like, you know, when they were together in Rioja about life, right? He said to her, like, basically, if you're picking me or you're picking mediocre life, right? And clearly when he said that, I was like, clearly this is from a place of hurt, you know, like that's what's happening right now, right? And so when they referenced it, when they were in the studio and Rachel was like, oh no, like I'm living my best life. There's a lot of anger there, you know, where it's almost like it to prove a point to someone, but not because you're genuinely like, oh, actually, I think I'm gonna live my best life. Like there was just something in her attitude towards him that I was like, she's mad. I thought she's still pissed. You know, it's
wow. I thought, you know, and not that either one of them are wrong, because as many times as I've said, I'd love to get some closure on an ex or you know, a love affair that ended, whatever. I don't know that I would want that closure in front of millions and millions of people.
Yeah, God, no.
And those guys were able to hold it together and be as gracious as they were. And he had issues. I mean, was he the most gracious? Perhaps, but I mean, I'm kind of on the fence about that. But you could see the emotion. I think you both of them were like, this is a really bizarre situation. We're still very emotional. I'm sure they both still have feelings for each other. She really can't say that with her fiance in the other room. But I just didn't personally feel like she attacked him. And again, like I was not rooting for Peter. I was rooting for her to have the thing that she wanted. Now, whether or not that's the best thing, only time will tell. And who knows? But Brian's charm and he was a little, well, we'll get to that, but it never bothered me. Much like, I guess, Peter's reticence and reserve didn't bother me either. It was just sort of like, but don't you feel like this? The last couple of guys that I've dated, very different, similar in some ways, but different in that I would say I've had like relationships with. And I've thought, if either one of them could, if we were like in the same place, wanting the same things at the same time, I'm like, I could understand that feeling of having strong feelings about two people and like who gets there first kind of thing, because I just personally don't think that there's one person for you in life. I just don't. I never have. I think there are different, your life calls for different things at different times. That doesn't mean I believe in divorce, because I don't. I shouldn't say I don't. I'm talking about for myself. But I could just see the conflict of why either one of them, for where she was in her life, would have been a good choice, and whoever got there. Like, I don't know. Like, the question is, if Peter had proposed, whose proposal would she have accepted?
Ooh, now there's a good question. Yeah, absolutely. Well, no, I think you're right, because, yeah, you can definitely, you know, see over the course of your relationship history, like, I love that guy, and I also love that guy, right? And if you had ended up meeting,
we probably could have had a good life together. I think there's some things in relationships that, with different people, like the other thing is a lot of that, like, you know, the glamour, all of that will fade to a degree. And can you get on with that person? Are they going to show you a lot of grace in times when you probably don't deserve it, and vice versa? And there are going to be times when you're not moving in the same direction. Yes. He's back here and you're up here, and then back, you know, there's ebbs and flows. As you know, your parents have been married over 40 years, right?
Yeah, 40.
My parents going on 40. So I can just see how either one of those guys, given what she wanted, would make maybe a good mate for her. Only time will tell. Now, shall we get on to Brian, apparently, whose kissing really bothers people because he's very loud with his kisses. I didn't know that.
I did not know people were saying this about Brian.
Yeah, it was a whole thing on Jimmy Kimmel last night and all over Twitter.
I didn't see any of the post stuff. Yeah, okay.
I was like, I didn't even notice, but now that you brought it to my attention.
Oh, you can't not notice, right? Can't unhear those kisses, yeah.
So,
yes.
Is it that you feel all of his expressions of love and proclamations of love and affection for her are disingenuous? Because I don't. I actually feel like he's super into her.
So it's not exactly that I think it's disingenuous. I don't think it's the same thing, right? But I think there are people are very much in love with love. And I'm just not sure if he's one of those people, right? So I think that you can definitely have those feelings, you know. And I think he says when he loves her, I think he means that, right? But I think there's also a way that what your concept of love is can be all sort of like romance, and, you know, it's all of the happy, good stuff, you know, the kissing, the sex, the, you know, romantic nights out. And it's like, but that's not love. I mean, that's a part of love, you know, certainly, but that's not all of love. And so I wonder when they hit a roadblock, right? And I said before on recaps also that the thing that I would have said no about Brian was about his mom.
I knew you were going to say that.
Way too hands-on to me, like way too involved, and that would be a turn off for me. Like, I would just be like, I think this is not probably the family that I should be a part of, right? So that, you know, is part of my thing too. But so when they hit a roadblock, like if there's conflict with his mother, or, you know, figuring out where they're gonna move, or, you know, like whatever, you know, just to know each other better and realizing that you're different in some ways, right? And having to communicate through that. Like, is he still gonna be like all about love then? You know, and that's my my worry about Brian.
Well, there's clearly only one way to find out. And how many of these scenarios have like really resulted in long-term relationships? The majority of those bachelorette stories do not, right?
Well, you know, one thing I will say, I don't have statistics on this, people, so don't quote me, but I think that the bachelorette pickings, actually, those couplings last a lot longer, which makes sense to me. I mean, you know, no offense, men who might be, you know, watching this recap, but I feel like women, you know, are probably better at, like, you know, the fluff, you know, to be like, okay, are you really the person who, you know, I want to be with? So in some ways, the fact that Rachel picked Brian, I'm like, okay, maybe there's, you know, I'm going to have to trust, like, lawyer Rachel and believe that she saw maybe more than I saw, you know, in what he was saying. So, you know, maybe it is gonna last forever. Maybe my dream will come true and they'll break up in a few months and then she'll go back to Peter and then next year she and Peter will get married.
Well, won't that be an interesting story? I mean, this was such an experience for me because I think I mentioned in the beginning that I never really watched the show, and with good reason. I'm so mad at ABC. One of my tweets last night was, we should just boycott this show and turn it on the last 15 minutes. It was so unnecessarily drawn out. It was so, like, the whole thing with Lee, like, irked me. Like, I think that there's a way they can do it with less cheese factor and less, I think there's a way to play into the scenarios without, like, so much sensationalism. I don't think, I think that's the part that just comes across as like, it's just hard to watch. But I am very thankful I actually took the, you know, that we took the time to watch the show, because it is, first of all, I'm super empathetic to anyone who puts himself in that situation. Just the sheer part of going in there, like, not knowing what's going to happen. You're in a very vulnerable position. And certainly for her, doing that, knowing she's very focused on getting married and having a family and all of that. She went in knowing she wanted a certain thing, and she came out potentially getting it. Who knows if that's how it's sort of going to pan out. But I so appreciate how open she was during the entire process and the amount of vulnerability that comes with that. And it's hard to do just one-on-one or in your personal life, but imagine doing that in front of millions of people. People tweeting about, like, and by the way, the majority of the people tweeting and weighing in are really mad that she picked Brian. So she really just put her, like, you know, just being able to stick to your guns and really be confident about your decisions, and in a very, I think, open and positive way. Like, the one thing you have to give her credit for is that she's a class act, and she really was, I think, very positive. I think she was fun. I think she was open. She's clearly very intelligent, a lovely family. And it inspired me to be more open and more heart forward in my own, I guess, dating life.
Yeah, I think I loved Rachel from the start.
Loved her.
Still in the end, even though she didn't pick the guy I wanted her to pick, you know, I am certainly wanting, you know, if Brian is what she wants, I hope that ends up, you know, working out beautifully. And, you know, she doesn't have to have my alternate ending to this. And I think it is, you know, really good. I mean, definitely, like, watching her journey, watching Eric, yes, even Peter too, you know, it just felt like it encompassed so many things about, like, yeah, no, this is obviously, you know, it's a television show, it's a really compact time, but there's so many things about relationships that, you know, came up. Like, yeah, I mean, you know, even though it's television, there's still reality of the reality television, you know, was also in there of, how do you know someone's right for you, you know, and of finding multiple people who you might like, you know, but who's the person who's best for you, you know, like, who is not only someone you get along with, but also has the same idea about the kind of life that they want to live, you know. And clearly that was one of the things that she was sort of wrestling with, you know, that that led her to picking Brian. So
I do think that women, if they dated a little bit more, and this is myself included, dated a little bit more like Rachel did, multiple guys, they have a better ability to do that. Because what we tend to do is we meet a guy and we're all in, we're all focused. And that's when I think if you put all your eggs in one basket right at the beginning, where you're just like, just because most of us are so like, I don't want to deal with any more men or shenanigans or go out on any first dates, it's funny because I just caught up on Insecure, and that whole scene, I think, was it the second episode or the first episode where she's going on all those dates, and it was the same question over and over again. I was like, oh my God, I so relate to that, especially if you're so where are you from? So where do you live? I'm like, so why am I doing this to myself? But I think your ability to discern would be really better influenced if you had one or like 2 or 3 guys that you were starting to date in the beginning, because then it takes a little bit of the pressure off of you putting all of your eggs in one basket, and B, really taking the time to get to know somebody, because it takes a while to get to know somebody.
No, I think that's a good point. Yeah, there's definitely times where, you know, I think women sort of go all in on, you know, one person, and then it's like, but this person is really going to be, you know, the one for you. So
right.
To put energy, to put like, oh, we're going to be in a relationship, and then, you know, this could be the guy that I marry. You know, it's like, well, no, maybe just get to know him, you know, be low key about it, see what happens. So I've tried to do that before, you know, I'm in a relationship now, but when I was, you know, and I still remember there was a summer.
Oh, I was there for that summer. Hello.
There was like 4 guys, and it was really difficult. I would go on a date and then be like, oh, well, right, you were raised in Philly. And he was like, no, Denver. Long time. Yeah. So maybe if I, you know, if I ended up being single again, and I, you know, maybe I would have to like take notes or something.
Oh, yeah,
like,
absolutely. You have to.
Like, what was that? I don't know.
100%.
Write, you know, quick notes on my hand or something.
Well, if I get past a first date with a couple of people, I've gone on like a couple of first dates, and I'm like, oh, won't be seeing that person again. I wasn't even compelled to move past that, but I'm down for trying it. And maybe what I'll do is, if that's happening, I'll write about it for the Spinsters Union blog.
Please, no, there should be a post about, you know.
Well, if it happens, like I just got to get past like a first date, or be inclined to move past a first date with someone. But all in all, our Bachelorette experience with Miss Rachel Lindsay, I think, was wonderful. I did enjoy her wardrobe quite immensely. I enjoyed those eyelashes.
That was one of my favorite. I cried my eyelashes off. I was like, I feel like I'm just gonna use that.
I know. And I enjoyed seeing. I just really also enjoyed seeing a Black woman as the object of affection and devotion and love in a way that we typically don't see ourselves. And so while I'm not a huge fan of reality TV shows, and partially because we're not often put in exactly the best light, I really did enjoy seeing that and would like to see more of it.
Indeed. Yeah, well, I'm definitely curious, you know, what this will kind of end up doing, you know, to the Bachelorette franchise. You know, like, will they be more open? I hope, you know, she's not going to be the only Black Bachelorette for, you know, the next 20 years. Or, you know, obviously for them to have, you know, a Latina, you know, and
American, yes, hello.
You know, that would be great, you know, to open things up, you know, to because you know, at the core of it, right, the thing is, wants to find love, Dee Dee. So if we can see that with a more diverse group of people, I think that would be a great thing. So
Agreed. Yeah. And isn't that true for just entertainment and programming? Well, that's just true in general. That's for business, entertainment, programming, education, you name it. There just needs to be a better, diverse, more inclusive spirit about how we're moving about the world. And with that,
yes,
I think that concludes our recap.
Yeah.
With season 13 finale.
Yes, indeed. So visit us at thespencersunion.com. All the social media.
Like our page, our YouTube channel below.
Yes, subscribe, and we'll be giving you some other content. The Bachelorette is over, but we'll have other content for you. So keep a lookout, and yeah, if you subscribe, then you'll get notified as soon as we post something.
And remember, our tagline is happily ever after begins now. And that means being happy where you are in your life. It doesn't mean that if you're not this, you're not there, you don't have the job, you're up to 10 pounds, whatever. You can be happy where you are. With that?
Yes. Bye.
Bye.